Dad, I found Grandma's house. Look at this. His voice, bright, unburdened, cut through the silence like a razor to skin. I leaned over my son's shoulder, expecting to see a blur of green trees and red shingles. A house I knew by memory, not by map. But I saw something else. In the backyard, a shape, long, tarp-covered, too clean, too symmetrical. And beside it, a glint, the corner of a metallic object I hadn't seen in over a year. My breath went still. Blood retreated from my face. "Get in the car." He blinked. "Why?" "Now." I grabbed the keys before he could ask again. My hands weren't shaking, but inside, I was already unraveling. It had been missing for 13 months, the silver storage box, military issue, marked with my initials. It held things no one else should have touched, classified photos, deployment drives, and a sealed letter, the kind I left behind in case I didn't return, addressed only to my wife. She told me it was stolen during the house move, that it probably got lost with the junk we tossed. She said it like she'd rehearsed it, like she knew I wouldn't dig. I didn't. I wanted to believe her. But now, it's in her mother's yard, miles from where we lived? No reason for it to be there, none that made sense, unless everything I'd trusted was built on a lie. I didn't tell my son anything on the drive. He played with a toy truck in the back seat while I rehearsed what I'd say to my mother-in-law. But every version ended the same way, with silence. Because I already knew I wouldn't ask questions. I'd observe, I'd listen, and I'd confirm. I dropped my son at a friend's house, told him it was a surprise visit. He smiled and ran off, never asking why I didn't smile back. The drive to her house felt longer than it should have. Every mile peeled back another layer of denial. She answered the door too quickly. Her smile was tight, forced. "My goodness, what a surprise! You didn't call." "I was in the area." She stepped aside, eyes flicking over my shoulder. Always checking, always calculating. I didn't go inside. I looked past her, toward the yard. It was still there, under the tarp, unmoved. We made small talk. She offered coffee. I declined. Then she said something odd. "Oh, by the way, did you ever find that silver box you lost?" I hadn't mentioned it to her, ever. My hands stayed in my pockets. I smiled, nodded like it was nothing. But inside, something cracked. Later that night, I checked her property records. She'd recently installed a small shed behind the house. Odd timing. She lived alone, claimed she hated clutter. The next day, I returned, quietly, while she was out. I brought gloves, a crowbar, and no illusions. Inside the shed were old decorations, rusted tools, and the box, unopened, but moved, handled. The letter was gone. I didn't confront her, not yet. I went home and checked my wife's messages. I'd learned how to recover deleted data months ago. Not for her, just habit. But this time, I had a reason. There it was, a voice note, 1 month after I was deployed. Her voice, whispering. I kept the letter. He'll never know. "Your mom put the box away, just like we planned." Another voice replied, male, familiar, Chuck, my best friend. "Mom's good at secrets," he laughed. My pulse didn't spike, my hands didn't tremble. I just sat there, listening, again and again. And then I deleted the file. After I saved a copy, of course. That weekend, I invited them over. Both of them, her and Chuck. They arrived together, too comfortable, too relaxed. My wife leaned in for a kiss. I stepped back. "I want to show you something," I said. We sat in the living room. I connected my phone to the TV, pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Then his. Then silence. I didn't speak, didn't look at her, or him. When the clip ended, I finally turned. She was pale. He was frozen. "You were overseas," she whispered. I nodded. "You weren't supposed to?" "No," I said. I wasn't. I stood, walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer, took out the envelope I'd resealed, dropped it on the table between them. You wanted this. She reached for it. I stopped her hand. No, it's mine. I picked it back up and set it on fire in the sink, watched it turn to ash, watched her eyes turn to glass. Chuck stood, said my name. I looked him in the eye. I buried you both in that letter. Now, it's gone. I moved out the next morning, didn't say goodbye, didn't explain it to my son. Not yet. He'll understand someday. I filed the divorce quietly, cited abandonment of trust, no contest. I mailed Chuck's wife the voice file, no message. I left the ashes of that letter in a glass jar on her mother's porch, no note. I've stopped checking maps, stopped tracing routes back to places that held ghosts. Funny thing about betrayal, it doesn't scream, it whispers, until you hear nothing else. And now, I hear nothing at all.